topic, the six senses, have always interested me, and that is one of the reasons why I am went that direction and say why I am joining myself. There is a difference between making art just as a leisure hobby expression. There's nothing wrong with it. And there is the other part that is creation or creativity to the artist is a necessity. It's not an ability or talent that comes with it, of course, but it is a necessity. It is making a decision, and that is, the decision is, I can't do otherwise. And I know the artists among this group know exactly what I'm talking about. So all artists have an intellect. However, the intellect alone would not make an art piece. It is first the necessity that why artists are actually going on to this journey, and that particular necessity is composed or comprised of intuition or the intuitive sense, imagination, visionary ability, intuition, something that is not seen. It is the power of the unseen where the artist starts to create and develops a landscape that is only available within that very creative, as I call it, the subconscious construct. And from all of that, we have this wealth of art for so many millennia, because even now we can't help creating art. So let me begin. What gives art a distinct essence of value? Does the essence of art take place when the artist catches sight of an image or idea from within? Creating art is using the divine consciousness or the sixth sense that derives from intuition and the human construct of this subconsciousness. The sixth sense facilitates to manifest the corresponding energies within the creative mind's eye. Incorporating the sixth sense links us, or intuitive sense, links us to the thought forms associated with it, which in turn establishes a bridge between us and the actual energies. The philosopher Adorno says, art does not arise from ability. It is a necessity, or ability alone, but rather out of the artist's inner artistic talent and his or her necessity to create. Martin Heidegger, the German philosopher, says, being, the very whatever is happening inside of us, that is, of course, the power of the unseen, that is the intuition, the necessity, the drive to make art. Or being is being alive, the heartbeat of being. Being is the essential fountain of the intuitive sense, or sixth sense, through which the substances of art takes initial form. It is where the artist's creative mind's eye, as I call it, shapes art into visual imagery and then to human consciousness. So, however, before I go on with my lecture, I do want to say something, of course, that the study of art is very important too. It is the most essential part, and all artists, whether they are representational or abstract, they study, of course, the classical arts, and that is based on the human figure. It is very important to do that. If one does not do that, then one cannot make art. Pollock, De Kooning, all of these people, Paul Klee, they all have studied the figure. And that is extremely important. And then you can go to abstractions or whatever you want to do. So in ancient Greece, the first initiative to create was the combines of birth, incredible, intuition, or the sixth sense, imagination, improvisation, and freedom. The Greeks followed their best visionary thinkers in art explained by Aristotle. Visual intuition can provide symbolic meaning. Let's say the human body could be interpreted into something kind of very, into white. Why not? It's kind of, let's, into symbolic of the color white. But the definition of white will never be the human body in real life. Here Aristotle presented an example of a symbolically rich subject that finds enlightened interpretation through artistic ability and creative thought. I think there is an urgency to invent a specific global window for studio art education, as well as for practicing artists where the characteristics of human intuition and improvisation combined with creative thought will be historically recognized and promoted as important for creating authentic art making. The global artistic outlook must harbor the inner flame of great human creation based on aesthetic and philosophical principles. Then practicing artists will continue to be the creative instrument who have shaped works of art and authentic visual truth throughout civilization, forecasting the coming of important historic events, of philosophical and cultural facts, or interpret and shape the social-cultural zeitgeist in which the artist lives. Sartre, the French philosopher, says, for itself, in its freedom, invents the whole creative system of interpretation which allows their interconnections. Sartre philosophy easily relate to the artist's mind and how to begin with authentic art projects, that is, through the essential first steps of intuition, the sixth sense, and artistic improvisation, which of course that is it. So now, oh yes, yeah, we can start there. I mean, continue there. Thank you, Lorna. I leave everything out and go right to that for a moment. Why not? That's it. Yes, so here we are. A few pages ahead, that's okay. This has always fascinated me. The Little Prince by Saint-Exupéry. Well, it is years ago, 11 years ago, when I first was introduced to it. I was brought up in Europe and Germany. And a very good friend sort of handed this book to me, and it became our literature for many, many years. We weren't children anymore. And it is a book, of course, written for children, but it is for both, for adulthood, childhood, and adulthood. And it's also a very serious book, and the ones among you who know the story, it's very, very serious and very enlightening. Now, something has always very interested me, and this is that particular image. When I first saw this image, I thought, well, this is interesting, there's something more to it. And then when I read the story, I thought it was just amazing, and this was an experience the writer Saint-Exupéry really lived through. That is, he was an artist first, or he was always an artist, and he became a very artistic, creative writer, but he drew this hat, Saint-Exupéry, and then he showed it to, he had a presentation somewhere, and he included this drawing. So everybody said, well, it's just a hat. So, and he was just a gas. He was just and it actually looks like it, but I thought there was something there. So most of you are familiar with the artist and writer Antoine Saint-Exupéry. He writes, I succeeded in making my first drawing. I showed this drawing to a group of people and asked them to describe the drawing. They said, it's just a hat. What is the big deal about drawing a hat? Saint-Exupéry replied, my drawing was not an image of a hat, it was an image of a boa digesting an elephant. Then he explains, since no one seems to understand my drawing, I made a second drawing. I drew the inside of the boa so that everybody could see it clearly. This time, the response of my audience, I think that's the next image, I hope so. Is it? Is the boa coming? This time the response of my audience was to lay aside my drawing whether from the inside nor from the outside, the intuitive sense, or from the outside or realism, etc., and devote myself to a profession of practical necessity. That is why, at the age of 6, Saint-Exupéry gave up a promising career as an artist. He became this incredible, imaginary, visionary writer. The insights of the molecular biologist Barbara McClinton serves as another example. She is a very innovative scientist and has discovered has to contribute to molecular biology extremely, not by the way of studying processes in sciences to get to the point, but as the artist does this. You must have, she says, you must have the time to look, the patience to hear what your inner voice, your intuitive sense has to say to you. Imagine. You must have the openness to let it come to you. When involved in scientific research, Barbara McClinton sees with the artist's eye. She first follows her intuition and her inner vision and contributed significant discoveries in biology. So where am I going from here? She has written a book, by the way, The Feeling of the Organism, the feeling of I mean, she was a highly intellectual person and has contributed so much to biology, and as a creator, really. But she would have never gone into that direction if she would have not tested, if she would have not challenged herself. And she did this. She lived at a university and for many years upstate in New York City and in New York State, and just for 30 years pondered every day in the laboratory to find something that could be contributing to humanity and to this growth of humanity and well-being. And that's, of course, what it's all about. That's why art is great. Let me say something else about composer. Several years ago, I approached the American composer Arthur Cunningham and asked him to collaborate in one of my series on sculpture combining light and sound. He told me that he sees the composer as a visual artist. Then he said, "Our world offers enough material to compose music. My intuition transforms the world around me into mind imagery and metaphors from which the melody for my musical compositions take rhythmic shape." So he sees the world around him and puts an object on the table. That's what he actually says, just like as artists would do, and just is inspired by this object and starts composing this magnificent music. It's an Afro-American composer. He's not with us anymore. He helped me tremendously. Yes. Yeah, okay, so let me just, this is so much in this presentation, so let me just wrap it up. And so I would like to just, there are a few more images, may I just sort of incorporate them. It has something, okay, so art, creating art, has obviously something to do with movement, rhythm, intuition. It is composed of movement and rhythm. It's not still. You can't touch it. You can't have it as an object in front of you. But you can make an object. You create something substantial. So my favorite media is light, and also I've also got the sound, light, and so these are some examples you see here. Before that, some light sculptures are also ambient lighting for the heart and soul, and for tea ceremonies or just relaxing. And then the geometric sculptures you see here, these are example of the series of the DNA in Nature I created in the 90s, and they have something to do with the form, the sacred geometric form. It is, of course, a very intricate part of nature's landscape. Without it, we wouldn't have any nature, we wouldn't have anything. But you can't really see it. If you look at a tree trunk, you can't really see the cylinder of the tree trunk. You have to carved away the bark, and then you would see the cylinder. And this is with all a rose in itself. You can't really see this magnificent circular shape or egg-like shape. So I thank you very much. I think there's so much, but okay.